Good evening and welcome to the Lazy Susan Dinner Theater. As a courtesy to our non-smokers, we ask that there be no smoking during tonight's performance. Also, for the safety of our actors and actresses, flashbulb photography is strictly prohibited. For the courtesy of the guests around you, we kindly request that all cell phones and pagers be turned off. In tonight's performance, the role of Reverend Witherspoon will be played by Daniel Dayton, the role of Dr. Lyman Hall by Gary White, the role of Samuel Chase by Jan Forbes, the role of Thomas Jefferson by Brian Grzinski, the role of Richard Henry Lee by Jeff, the role of Sherman by Ryan Keogh, the role of Thompson by Mike Hedges, and the role of John Adams by Brandon Mace. We'd also like to ask that the aisles and stage areas be kept clear of personal belongings. And now the Lazy Susan Dinner Theater is proud to present 1776.
I have come to the conclusion that one useless man is called a disgrace, that two are called a law firm, and that three or more become a Congress. And by God, I have had this Congress for 10 years. King George and his Parliament have gold, collared, and diddled these colonies with their illegal taxes. Stamp Acts, Sugar Acts, Townsend Acts, Tea Acts. And when we dared to stand up against them like men, he has seized our ships, blockaded our ports, burned our towns, and now he has spilled our blood. And yet this Congress refuses to grant any of my proposals on independence, even so much as the courtesy of open debate. Well, good God, what in hell are they waiting for?
Sit down, John! Sit down, John! For God's sake, John! Sit down! Sit down, John! Sit down, John! For God's sake, John! Sit down!
Then God, sir, get thee to it. This Congress never will. You see, we piddle, twiddle, and resolve. Not one damn thing do we solve. Piddle, twiddle, and resolve. Nothing's ever solved in foul-fetid, fuming, foggy, filthy Philadelphia.
Someone ought to open up a window.
Shut up!
I now call Congress' attention to the petition of Mr. Melchior May. Claims $20 compensation for his dead mule. It seems the animal was employed transporting luggage in the service of the Congress.
The question then would appear to be one of occasion. For if the mule expired not while carrying, but after being unloaded, then surely the beast dropped dead on its own time.
Oh, yes, certainly.
We may sit here for years and years in Philadelphia. Indecisive grenadiers of Philadelphia. They can't decide on what is right or wrong or what is good or bad. I'm convinced the only purpose this Congress ever had was to gather here specifically to drive John Adams mad. You see, we piddle, twiddle, and resolve. Not one damn thing do we solve. Piddle, twiddle, and resolve. Nothing's ever solved in foul-fetid, fuming, foggy, filthy Philadelphia.
John, is that you're carrying on? John!
Abigail, I have such a desire to knock heads together.
I know, my dearest, I know. But that's because you make everything so complicated. It's all quite simple, really. Just tell the Congress to their independence. Then sign on and get out of there and hurry home to me. Our children are dictating, people talking, turning blue. The lobby has the measles and they're coming down with flu. They're making smallpox.
Madam, what else is new? Abigail, in my last letter, I told you the king has gathered 10,000 German mercenaries to send against us. Now, I asked you to organize the ladies to make saltpeter for gunpowder. Have you done as I've asked?
No, John, I have not.
And why have you not?
Because you misunderstood how saltpeter is made.
By treating sodium nitrate with potassium chloride, of course.
Oh, yes, of course.
Will it be done then?
I'm afraid we have a more urgent problem, John.
More urgent.
There's one thing every woman from this town, Massachusetts, needs. Don't smirk at me, you egotist face. You do what I say. We've gone from Brandon to Folsom and the town of Pine up in. Don't you know there is law that says it's true to the grin? Well, we will not make saltpeter until you find us pin.
Pins, madam. Saltpeter. 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 Peter. 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 Done, madam, done.
Done, John.
As soon as I am able.
Don't stop writing, John. It's all I have.
Every day, my dearest friend.
Till then,
Till then,
I am as
All right, Franklin. What is it that you suggest? Let someone else in the Congress propose.
Never.
All right. Who did you have in mind? Oh, I don't know, John. I really haven't given it that much thought. You sent for me, Benjamin?
Never.
Hello, Johnny.
Hello, Richard.
Richard, John and I need some advice. Mind to give? It's yours, you know that. Well, thank you, Richard. As you know, the cause that we support has come to a complete standstill. Now, why do you suppose that is? Simple. Johnny here is obnoxious and disliked. Yes, that's true. What's the solution, I wonder? Get someone else in Congress to propose.
Richard, that's brilliant. Wasn't that brilliant,
Oh,
John?
yes, brilliant. Yes, now the question remains, who can it be? The man we need must belong to a delegation publicly committed to support the cause. And so far, only Massachusetts, Delaware, and New Hampshire have declared... And Virginia! Don't forget Virginia, Benji! Oh, I have, Richard. How could I? But strictly speaking, while Virginia's views on independence are well known, your legislature in Williamsburg has never formally authorized your delegation to this Congress to support the cause. Of course, if we could think of a Virginian with enough influence to go down there and persuade the House of... Damn me if I haven't thought of somebody. Who? Me? Now, why didn't I think of that? Well, right away. I'll leave tonight. I'll just stop by in Stratford long enough to refresh the missus, and then I'm straight to the business. Virginia, the land that gave us our glorious commander-in-chief. George Washington. Well, now give the continent its proposal on independence. And where Virginia goes, the South goes. And where the South goes, the middle colonies will follow. Gentlemen, a salute to Virginia.
Wonderful. He hasn't even left yet and we're free already. And what makes you so sure that you can do it?
Ha! My name is Richard Henry Lee. Virginia is my home. My name is Richard Henry Lee. Virginia is my home. And may my horses turn blue if I can't deliver up to you a resolution on independency. Because FMV, the first family in the oldest colony in America. out, McNair! You hear the others do, and there won't be too long to wait.
It's after 10. I was told the Congress convenes at 10.
Oh, they'll be wandering in any minute now with old Rape and Guts leading the pack.
Old who?
Mayor!
Rape and Guts.
Let's have another round!
Mr. Hopkins, you'll be pleased to meet Dr. Lyman
I
Hall,
don't need a doctor, damn it!
new delegate from Georgia.
Why didn't you say so? I'm Stephen Hopkins, old delegate from Rhode Island. Here, 2 mugs are wrong.
I fear it's a little early in the day, sir.
Nonsense! It's a medicinal fact that rum gets a man's heart started in the morning. I'm surprised you didn't know it. Speaking as the oldest man in the
Ben
Congress.
Franklin's older by nearly a year.
Wrong! Tell me, Doctor, whole word does Georgia stand on the question of
are present with the following exceptions. Mr. Charles Carroll of Maryland, Mr. Samuel Adams of Massachusetts, Mr. Button Gwinnett of Georgia, Mr. With and Mr. Richard Henry Lee of Virginia, and the entire delegation of New Jersey.
I am concerned over the continued absence of 1/13 of this Congress. Where is New Jersey?
Somewhere between New York and Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much. Dr. Franklin, have you heard anything? Your son resides there.
Son, sir, what son?
The Royal Governor of New Jersey, sir?
As that title might suggest, sir, we are not in touch at the present time.
Yes. Well, very well then. Well then, the weather report, Mr. Jefferson of Virginia. Mr. Jefferson,
Present.
did you hear about the weather as if it's we're speaking for itself?
Yes, sir. 93 degrees of temperature, 0.6 inches mercury. The wind from the southwest for the rest of the day. And tonight, gentlemen, tonight I'm leaving for home.
Oh, on business.
On family business.
You were good one for me, fella.
From the Commander, Army of the United Colonies in New York, dispatch number 1137, to the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President. Dear Sir, it is with grave apprehension that I have learned this day of the sailing from Halifax, Nova Scotia, of a considerable force of British troops in the company of foreign mercenaries, and under the command of General Sir William Howe. There can be no doubt that their destination is New York, for to take and hold this city and the Hudson Valley beyond will serve to separate New England from the other colonies, permitting both sections to be crushed in turn. Sadly, I see no way of stopping them at the present time, as my army is absolutely falling apart. My military chest is totally exhausted. My commissary general has strained his credit to the last. My quartermaster has no food, no arms, no ammunition, and my troops are in a state of near mutiny. I pray God some relief arrives before the Armada, but fear it will not. Your obedient, G. Washington.
Mr. President,
Colonel McKeon.
surely we've managed to promote the gloomiest man on the continent to the head of the troops. These dispatches are the most depressing accumulation of disaster, doom, and despair in the entire annals of military history. And furthermore,
Colonel McKeon.
What?
It's too hot.
Yes. Oh, I suppose it is.
Gentlemen, General Washington will continue wording his dispatches as he sees fit. I'm sure we all pray that he finds accurate thoughts to convey in the near future. Mr. Thompson, are there any more resolutions?
Dr. Josiah Bartlett of New Hampshire.
Yes. Resolved that for the duration of the present hostilities, that Congress discourage every type of extravagance, dissipation, elaborate funerals, other expensive diversions, especially horse races.
Down now! Tom is Dickie. Your little wife wants to know.
What?
When's he coming home?
I leave tonight.
Is it done?
Done? Why, certainly. Resolved. These United Colonies are and of a right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. Massachusetts,
The resolution has been proposed and seconded. The chair will now entertain debate. Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. President, Pennsylvania moves, as always, that the question of independence be postponed indefinitely.
I second the motion.
No. Judge Wilson, Connecticut can no longer withhold its supports.
Connecticut says yay.
Here, here, here.
Connecticut says yay. New York.
Mr. Secretary, New York abstains. Courteously.
New York abstains.
Courteously.
New Jersey.
Absent, Mr. Secretary.
Oh yes, I forgot. New Jersey is absent. Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania for the 24th time says nay.
Pennsylvania says nay. Delaware.
Delaware has ever
Oh.
independence.
Hey, says yay.
Delaware says yay. Maryland.
Maryland would gladly welcome independence, if it were given, but is highly skeptical that it can be taken. Maryland says nay.
Maryland says nay. Virginia.
Virginia, the first colony, says yay.
Virginia says yay. Carolinas.
Mr. President, although we in the Carolinas have never seriously considered the question of independence, when a gentleman proposes it, attention must be paid. However, we in the Deep South, unlike our friends in New England, have no cause for impatience at the present time. If at some future date it becomes the wish of all our sister colonies to effect a separation, well, we will not stand in the way. But until that time, the Carolinas will wait and watch. The vote is nay.
Carolinas say nay. Georgia. Georgia.
Mr. Secretary, Georgia seems to be split right down the middle on this issue. The people are against it, and I'm for it. I'm afraid I'm not yet certain whether representing the people means relying on their judgment or on my own. So in all fairness, until I can figure it out, I better lean a little toward their side. Georgia says nay.
Georgia says nay. Rhode Island. Second call, Rhode Island.
I'm coming. Hold the damn horses.
Waiting on you, Mr. Hodges.
Sure, playa. Think the Congress would have its own pisser. All right, where does he stand?
5 for debate, 5 for postponement, 1 abstention, and 1 absence.
This is up to me, is it? I'll tell you. In all my years, I've never heard, seen, nor smelled an issue that was so dangerous that it couldn't be talked about. Hell yes, I'm debating anything. But I don't say
See there! Get Mr. Hopkins a row.
You just said that the
Oh, get him the whole damn barrel if he wants. The chair now declares this Congress a committee of the whole for the purpose of debating Virginia's resolution on independence. Mr. Dickinson.
Well, now you've got your way at last, Mr. Adams. The matter may now be discussed. I confess I am almost relieved. There's a question I've been fairly itching to ask you. Why? Why what, Mr. Dickinson? Why independence, Mr. Adams?
Because our continued association with Great Britain has become intolerable.
To whom, sir? To you. Then I suggest you sever your ties immediately, but please be kind enough to leave the rest of us where we are. Firstly, I have no objection at all to being part of the greatest empire on earth, of enjoying its protection and sharing its benefits.
Benefits, sir? What benefits? Crippling taxes, cruel repressions, and abolished rights?
Is that all England means to you, sir? Is that all the affection and pride you can muster for the nation that bore you, for the noblest, most civilized nation on the face of this planet? Would you have us forsake Hastings and Magna Carta, Strongbow and Lionheart, Drake and Marlborough, Tudors, Stuarts, and Plantagenets? Now for what, sir? Company for whom? For you. Some men are patriots like General Washington. Some are anarchists like Mr. Paine. Some are even internationalists like Dr. Franklin. But you, sir, you are merely an agitator, disturbing the peace, creating disorder, endangering the public welfare, and for what? Your petty little personal complaints. Your taxes are too high. Well, sir, so are mine. Oh, come, Mr. Adams. If you have grievances, and I'm sure you have, our present system must provide a gentler means of redressing them, short of what he wants. Nothing short of it will satisfy him. Violence, rebellion, treason. Now, Mr. Adams, are these the acts of Englishmen?
Not Englishmen, Dickinson. Americans!
No, sir.
Please, Mr. Dickinson, let's just start banging. How's a man to sleep?
Forgive me, Dr. Franklin, but must you start speaking? How is a man to stay awake? We promise to be quiet, sir. I'm sure everyone prefer you remain asleep.
If I'm to hear myself called an Englishman, sir, I assure you I prefer I remain asleep.
What is so terrible about being called an Englishman? The English don't seem to mind.
Nor would I, were I given the full rights of an Englishman. But to call me one without those rights
Mr. Dickinson. Rougher, simpler, more violent, more enterprising, and less refined. For a new nationality, we require a new nation.
Here, here.
That may be your opinion, Dr. Franklin, but as I said, the people feel
The
quite
people!
Dickinson, what do you know about the people? You do not represent the people. You only stand for yourself, and that precious status quo you keep imploring the people to protect for their own good is nothing more than the eternal preservation of your own property. Mr. Adams, you have an annoying talent for making such delightful words as property sound quite distasteful. In heaven's name, what is wrong with property? Perhaps you've forgotten that many of us first came to these shores in order to secure rights to property, and we hold those rights no less dear than the rights you speak of. Oh yes, so safe, so fat, so comfortable in Pennsylvania. And what is this independence but the private grievance of Massachusetts? Why is it always Boston that breaks the king's peace? My dear Congress, you must not adopt this evil measure. It is the work of the devil. Leave it where it belongs, in New England.
Brother Dickinson, New England has been fighting the devil for more than 100 years.
And as of now, Brother Sherman, the devil has been winning hands down. By this very moment, he's sitting here in this Congress. Don't let him deceive you. This proposal is entirely his doing.
Just a minute,
It
Dickinson.
may bear Virginia's name, but it reeks of Adams, Adams, and more Adams. Look at it, ready to lead this continent down the fiery path of total destruction. Why can you not acknowledge what already exists, man? Why it has been over a year since Concord and Lexington? We're at war right now. You may be at war, you Boston and John Adams, but you will never speak for Pennsylvania.
Nor for Delaware!
Mr. Reed, you only represent 1/3 of Delaware.
Apparently the sensible third, Mr. Rodney. Sit down, you little roach, or I'll knock you down.
Sit down, all three of you. McNair, do something about these flies.
You're wrong.
Get the flies
You're
first.
wrong.
Only got 2 hands.
Mighty it's hot in here. Please, do go on, gentlemen. You're making the only breeze here in Philadelphia.
Mr. Adams, perhaps you could clear something up for me. After we've achieved this independence, who do you propose would govern in South Carolina?
The people, of course.
Which people, sir? The people of South Carolina or the people of Massachusetts?
Whether it's divinity, you're against independence now, and you always will be.
Right! You refuse to understand us, gentlemen. We desire independence, yes, for South Carolina. That is our country. And as such, we do not wish to belong to anyone, not to England and not to you, sir.
We intend to be one nation, Rutland.
A nation of sovereign states, united for our mutual protection, yet separate for our individual pursuits. That is what we've understood it to be, and that is what we will support. As soon as everyone supports it.
There you are, Mr. Adams. You must see that we need time to make certain of who we are and where we stand in regard to one another. For if we do not determine the nature of the beast before we set it free, it will end by consuming us all.
Wilson, for once in your life, can you take a chance? I say that the time is now and it may never come again.
Your clock is fast, Mr. Adams. We are not yet ripe for independence.
That's what? Hell, we're wanting for one.
Hey,
Gentlemen, please, what in God's name is the infernal hurry? Why must this question be settled now?
What's wrong with now, Mr. Chase?
General Washington is in the field. And if he is defeated, as it now appears, then we're all for the hangman. But if by some miracle he should actually win, why then, gentlemen, we can declare whatever we damn well please.
The sentiments of South Carolina precise.
Has it ever occurred to either one of you that an army needs something to fight for in order to win? A cause, a purpose, or a flag of its own?
Mr. Adams, how can a nation of nearly 2 million souls stand up against an empire of 10 million? Think of it, man. 10 million! How are we to compensate for such a shortage?
That's simple, Mr. Chase. We increase and multiply.
We will compensate more than enough with spirit. I tell you, there is a spirit out amongst the people that is sadly lacking in this Congress.
Why, yes, of course. Now it's spirit. Why didn't I think of that? No army, no navy, no arms, no ammunition, no treasury, no friends. But bless our soul, spirit. Mr. Lee, Mr. Hopkins,
Normandy, the enemy is here.
He's out there, I say. England closing in, cutting off our air. There's no time. Oh, hey, hey. I'll take your hands out here. Dr. Hall!
Colonel McKee,
Hi, it's a cancer. He should go. Yes, a man should die in his own bed.
John. Yes, I'm here, Caesar.
I leave you to die. I'll take you home, Caesar. I'll be back within the week.
Godspeed. Bless you, Caesar.
Mr. President, South Carolina calls the question.
What's that, Miss Rutledge?
I said, Mr. President, South Carolina desires to end the debate and call the question on independence.
Gentlemen, please. The question's been called in second. Mr. Secretary, record the vote.
Franklin, do something, please.
I'm thinking nothing's coming. All those in favor of the resolution of independence as proposed by the colony of Virginia, please signify by saying
Mr.
yea.
Secretary, would you read the resolution again, please?
What?
I've forgotten it.
Oh, come now, sir.
Resolved that these united colonies are and have a right ought to be free and
I beg your pardon. I'm the Reverend Jonathan Witherspoon. The new delegate from New Jersey?
Sir! Quickly, I must ask you.
Is of the utmost Dr. Franklin. I regret that I must be the bearer of unhappy tidings, but your son, the royal governor of New Jersey, has been taken prisoner and moved under guard to the colony of Connecticut for safekeeping.
Is he unharmed, sir?
When last I heard, yes, he was, sir.
Then why the long fees? I understand Connecticut's an excellent location.
Tell me, why did they arrest the little bugger?
The New Jersey legislature has recalled the old delegation to this Congress and appointed a new one.
Quickly, men, where do you stand on the issue of independence?
Oh, well, haven't I made that clear?
No?
Well, no, I suppose I haven't, but you see, that's the reason for the change. You see, I've been instructed to vote for independence.
Mr. President, we are now ready to vote on independence, and I would like to remind the chair of its privilege to decide all votes that are dead.
Don't forget, Mr. Adams, the chair would like to take this opportunity to welcome the Reverend Witherspoon and appoint him congressional chaplain to accept the votes.
With much pleasure, sir.
Thank you. Very well. Mr. Thompson, you may now proceed with the vote on independence.
all those in favor of the resolution on independence as proposed by the colony of Virginia, please signify.
Mr. President, Pennsylvania moves that any vote in favor of independence must be unanimous. Yes, I second the motion.
Judge Wilson!
Delaware second.
But no vote has ever had to be unanimous, Dickinson. You know that.
But this one must be.
On what ground?
That no colony be torn from its mother country without its own consent.
But it will never be unanimous, damn it.
If you say so, Mr. Adams.
It has been moved and seconded that the vote on independence must be unanimous to carry. All those in favor signify by saying yea.
Yay!
6 colonies say yea. All those against say nay.
Nay!
6 colonies say nay.
Mr. Secretary, New York abstained. Hurry, please. Mr. Livingston, why does New York constantly abstain? Why doesn't New York just simply stay in New York? Very well, gentlemen, the vote is tied. The principles of independence have no greater advocate in Congress than its president. That's the reason I must join those who vote for unanimity. Here's reality. Don't you see that any colony who opposes independence will be forced to fight on the side of England? That will be setting brother against brother. Then our new nation will carry as its emblem the mark of Cain. Gentlemen, I see no other way. Either we walk together, or together we stay where we are. Very well. Proceed, Mr. Thomas.
A unanimous vote being necessary to carry, if any be opposed to the resolution
Mr. President, I'd like to move for postponement.
I wish you the same luck I had with it.
Mr. Adams is right. We need a postpone.
On what grounds?
now, Mr. Adams, you'll have to do better than that. To what would be its purpose?
Mr. Chase, as I
To
said,
place before mankind the common sense of the subject in terms so plain and firm as to command their assent.
Mr. Jefferson, are you seriously suggesting that we publish a paper declaring to the entire world that an illegal rebellion is in reality a legal one?
Why, Mr. Dickinson, I'm surprised at you. You should know that rebellion is always legal in the first person, such as our rebellion. It's only in the third person, their rebellion, that it is illegal. Mr. President, I second the motion to postpone the vote on independence for a period of time sufficient for the writing of a declaration. It has been moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary?
All those in favor of the motion to postpone signify by saying yea.
Yay!
6 colonies say yea. Those against?
Nay!
6 colonies say nay.
Mr. Secretary, New York abstains. Mr. Livingston, what in the hell goes on in New York?
Sorry, Mr. President, but the simple fact is that my legislature has never sent explicit instructions on.
Well, on anything. Never? Never? Well, that's impossible.
Mr. President, have you ever been present at a meeting of the New York legislature?
They all talk very fast. Very loud. No one listens to anyone else. What's the result is nothing ever gets done. I beg the Congress's pardon.
My sympathies, Mr. Livingston. The vote again being tied. The chair decides in favor of postponement.
thank you, sir.
So ruled. A committee will now be formed to manage the declaration. Said document to be written, debated, and approved by the beginning of July, 3 weeks hence, at which time Virginia's resolution on independence will finally be voted on. Is that clear?
Yes,
sir. Very well. The following gentlemen serve on the Declaration Committee. Dr. Franklin. With pleasure. Mr. John Adams.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Sherman. Mr. Livingston, and of course, Mr. Lee.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I'll have to decline. I've been asked to serve as governor of Virginia, so I'll have to return that forthwith.
Very well, Mr. Lee, you're excused. I suppose we can leave it to a 4-man committee.
Mr. President, I believe that this business requires a Virginian. So I would like to propose a replacement of Mr. Thomas Jefferson.
No, thank you, Mr. Adams.
Very well, Mr. Adams. Mr. Jefferson will serve.
But I'm going home to see my wife.
Move to adjourn.
I haven't seen her in 6 months.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any objections?
I've got objections. I've got lots of objections.
So ruled. Congress stands adjourned. Good luck, Thomas. Read and talk.
Gentlemen, who will write our Declaration on Independence?
Mr. Adams, I say you should write it. To your legal mind and brilliance we defer.
Is that so? Well, if I'm the one to do it, they'll run their quill through it. I'm obnoxious and disliked, you know that, sir.
Yes, I know.
So I say you should write it, Franklin. You.
Hell no!
Yes, you, Dr. Franklin. You.
Mr. Adams, but Mr. Adams, the things I write are only like extemporanea. I won't put politics on paper, it's a mania. So I refuse to use the pen in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, refuse to use the pen.
Mr. Sherman, maybe you should write it. You are never controversial, as it were. That is true. Whereas if I'm the one to do it, they'll run their quill pens through it. I'm obnoxious and disliked, you know that, sir. Yes. So I say you should write it, Roger.
Good heavens, no.
Yes, you, Roger Sherman. You.
Mr. Adams, but Mr. Adams, I cannot write with any style or proper etiquette. What? I don't know a participle from a predicate, for I am just a simple cobbler from Connecticut.
Connecticut, Connecticut, a simple copper key.
Franklin.
or a lover?
I will be a lover.
No!
But I burn, Mr. A.
So do I, Mr. J.
You.
Yes.
We do. John!
Who would have thought it? Jefferson, dear Mr. Jefferson, I am still very young and still have my virility. And I can romp through Cupid's grove with great agility. But life is more than sexual combustibility.
Bustability! Bustability!
Quiet! Now you right, Mr. J.
Who will make me, Mr. A?
I.
You.
Yes.
How?
By physical force if necessary.
Mr. Adams. Damn you, Mr. Adams. You are obnoxious and disliked. That cannot be denied. Once again you stand between me and my lovely bride. Lovely bride. Oh, Mr. Adams, you are driving me to homicide.
Homicide!
Quiet! The choice will be yours, Jefferson. Do as you like with it.
We may see murder yet.
Damn that man. All right, Jefferson, it's been a week. I'd like to see what you have done. There comes a time in the life of man when... Jefferson, this is terrible. Where's the rest of it? Do you mean to say it's not yet finished?
No, sir. I mean to say it's not yet begun.
Jefferson, it's been an entire week. The Earth was created in a week.
Yes, John, and someday you must tell me how you did it.
Look at him, Franklin, Virginia's most famous lover.
Virginia, abstain.
Jefferson, just get out of the dumps and get to work. It'll turn out all right. Don't worry. I promise. Franklin, come over here. Tell him to get back to work.
He's asleep.
Franklin! Well,
He's not even...
I am so lonesome.
Are you, John? Well, then, as long as you were sending for wives, why didn't you send for your own?
Abigail, don't be unreasonable.
Oh, now I'm being unreasonable. Oh, you must add that to your list.
And what list is that?
The catalog of my faults that you sent in your last letter.
They were fondly intended, Madam.
That I collect cards that
A compliment,
my posture is crooked.
an endearment,
That I read, write, and think too much.
an irony.
That I'm pigeon-toed.
Well, there you have me, Abigail. You are pigeon-toed. Come to Philadelphia, Abigail.
Do so want to, John, but you know it's not possible now. The children have the measles.
Yes, so you wrote Tom and Abby.
And now it's Quincy and Charles. I'm afraid the farm at Braintree is failing, John. All the chickens and geese have died, and the apples never survive the late frost. How do you suppose she managed to get away?
Winters are softer in Virginia, Madam.
And the women?
Fit for Virginians, but nothing next to New England girls.
Say thank you for that, John.
Abigail, how goes it with you?
Not well, John. Not at all well. I live like a nun in a cloister, solitary, celibate. I hate it.
I live like a monk in an abbey. Ditto, ditto, I hate it.
Write to me with sentimental effusion. Let me revel in romantic illusion.
Do you still smell of vanilla and spring air? And is my favorite lover's villa still firm and fair?
What was it, John? Still is it, John? Come soon as you can to my cloister. I've forgotten the feel of your hand.
Soon, madam, we shall walk in Cupid's grove together, and we'll fondly survey the promised land. Till then, I am as I ever was and ever shall be. Yours, 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 yours,
I'm sorry to be late, John. I was up till all hours. You've been waiting long.
Not too long, Franklin.
What are you doing out here? I expected you to be up there cracking the whip.
Well, everything's still all shut up.
So it is. My word. Well, as the French say,
Oh, Franklin, please spare me your body mind at this hour. Dare we call?
a congressman dares anything. Go ahead.
What? Your voice is more piercing. All right.
Franklin?
Maybe we should come back later.
What?
Well, it's positively indecent.
Oh, John, they're young and they're in love.
Not them, Franklin, us. Why, we're standing down here waiting for them to, well, you know, what will people say?
Don't worry, John. The history books will clean it all up.
The history books will have nothing to say about the name John Adams. It will be Franklin did this, and Franklin did that, and Franklin did some other damn thing. Why, Franklin smote the ground and outspread from George Washington, fully grown and on his horse. He then electrified them with his miraculous lightning rod, and then the three of them, Washington, Franklin, and the horse, conducted the entire revolution by themselves.
I like it.
Look at her, John. Just look at her.
I am. She's even more magnificent than I remember. Of course, we didn't see very much of her front last night. Good morrow, Adam.
Good morrow.
Is it the habit in Philadelphia for strangers to shout at ladies from the street?
Well, not at all, madam, but you see,
And
we're
for
not...
men of your age, it's not only unseemly, why it's unsightly.
Well, pardon me, madam, but we did meet last evening.
I spoke to no one last evening.
Indeed, you did not, madam, but nevertheless, we presented ourselves.
Yes.
This is Mr. John Adams, and I am Dr. Franklin. Inventor of the stove?
Yes.
Oh, please, I know your names very well. It's just the way you presented yourself.
It's of no matter, madam. Your thoughts were well taken elsewhere.
My husband is not yet up.
Shall we start over?
Yes.
Won't you join us, madam?
Yes, of course.
No wonder the man couldn't write. Who'd think of independence married to her? True.
Well, I beg you to forgive me. It was indeed an honor meeting the two greatest men in America.
Certainly the two greatest within earshot, at any rate.
I'm not an idle flatterer, Dr. Franklin. My husband admires you both greatly.
Then we are doubly flattered, for we admire very much that which your husband admires.
Tell me, madam, did you sleep well?
Did
you lie comfortably? Frankly, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes, John, we know. Tell us about yourself, man. We've had precious little information. What's your first name?
Martha?
Martha. You might at least have told us that much. I'm afraid your husband doesn't say very much.
Yes, he is the most silent man in Congress. I haven't heard him utter but 3 words together.
Not everyone's a talker, John.
It's true, you know. Tom is not a talker. Oh, he never speaks his passions. He never speaks his views. Whereas other men speak volumes, the man I love is mute. In truth, I can't recall being wooed with words at all. Even now.
Well, go on, madam.
How did he win you, Martha? And how does he hold on to a bounty such as you?
Well, surely you know that Tom is a man of many accomplishments. Author, lawyer, farmer, architect, statesman, and still one yet that I hesitate to mention.
Well, don't hesitate, madam.
Yes, what else can that red-headed tombstone do?
He plays the violin. He tucks it right under his chin. And he bows. Oh, he bows. For he knows, yes, he knows that it's hard.
written the Declaration after all. At my age, there's little doubt. Pan is mightier than the sword. Hi, 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 diddle, diddle. And God bless the man who can fiddle. Independency. Hi, 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 hi. Yeah, da, da, da,
And what follows is a complete and up-to-date list of the committees of this Congress now sitting, about to sit, or just having sat. A committee formed to investigate a complaint made against the quality of yeast manufactured at Mr. Henry Pendleton's mill, designated as the Yeast Committee. A committee formed to consider the most effective method of dealing with spies, designated as the Spies Committee. A committee formed to think, perhaps to do, but in any case to gather, to meet, to confer, to talk, and perhaps to even resolve that each rifle regiment be allowed at least one drum and one fife attached to each company, designated as the Drum and Fife Committee. A committee formed to...
Look at it, Doctor. Democracy. What Plato called a charming form of government full of variety and disorder. Ha! I never knew Plato had been to Philadelphia. McNair! Open up that damn window!
Dad, I want you to see some cards I got on that printed up. They're going to save everybody here a whole lot of time and effort, considering the epidemic of bad disposition that's been going around today. Dear sir, you are without any doubt a rogue, a rascal, a villain, a thief, a scoundrel, and a mean, dirty, stinking, stealing, seeking, pimping, pocket-picking, double and no good son of a sea cook. And you sign her name. What do you think?
I'd like to have a dozen of those, Stephen. Thank you.
A committee formed to answer all congressional correspondence, designated as the Congressional Correspondence Committee.
All right, Franklin, stop your piddling. There's work to be done.
Good morning, John!
What? Ah, good morning, good morning. Let's get to it.
Let's get to what?
Unanimity. Have you looked at the board? We have 6 days to win over in a little more than a week.
A committee formed to consider the problem of counterfeit money, designated as the Counterfeit Money Committee.
All right, John, where do we start?
Delaware. It's a sad thing to see her on the wrong side after all this time. Any word about Caesar?
McKee's back.
Oh, Thomas!
A committee formed to study the cause of our military defeat in Canada, designated as the Military Defeat Committee.
Tell me, how is Caesar? Alive?
Aye, he's alive. But the journey to Dover was fearful hard on him. He didn't complain, but I could tell the poor man was suffering.
But you got him safely home.
I did, but I doubt that he'll ever set foot out of it again.
Well, that leaves you and Reed split right down the middle.
Aye.
You think he'll come over?
And then again, he is a stubborn little snob.
Oh, work on it. See if you can break him down.
Oh, John, face facts. If it were just Reed standing in our way, it wouldn't be so bad. But look for yourself, man. Maryland, Pennsylvania, the entire South. It's impossible.
It's only impossible if we stand around and complain about it. One foot in front of the other, McKee.
I believe I put it a better way. Never leave off
Franklin,
too long.
please,
That's
shut up!
John, what good will it do? You know Dickinson. He'll never give in. And you haven't done the last of knowledge yet.
Your job will be George Reed. Now talk to that dead if you have to, but bring us back Delaware.
There's a simpler way. This'll break the tie.
A committee formed to keep secrets, designated as the Secrets Committee.
All right, John, who's next?
Maryland and Pennsylvania, why don't you get your own house in order? I'll go talk to Bacon face over there looking stuffy. So, Mr. Chase, when are you going to come to your senses?
Please, Mr. Adams, not while I'm eating.
Mr. Wilson, it's time for you to assert yourself. When you
judge, how the hell did you ever make a decision?
The decisions I made were based on legality and precedence. And there is no legality here and certainly no precedent.
That's because it's a new idea you collect. We'll be setting our own precedent.
No, Miss McKinn! No! 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 Damn your ice cream! You came into this world screaming no, and you're determined to leave it the same way.
Mr. Chase, this Congress is
Mr. Adams, you leave me alone!
Everyone is waiting for your decision, Mr. Chase, please.
You're wasting your time, sir. God, man, don't you think if I thought there was even a chance that we could win this war, I'd be at the front of your ranks? But you've heard General Washington's dispatches? His army's falling apart.
No. General Washington is using that language to try to rouse this corporate Congress to some sort of action. Why, as the chairman of the War Committee, I guarantee you that our troops have never been more resolute. Never has training been better. Never has discipline been more spirited. Our troops, why, they have never been in better shape.
Mr. Adams, we've heard all this before. You're becoming Johnny One Note, la la la, all the same note.
May I hear you? May I have your ears, gentlemen? Mr. Hudson has the dispatch.
From the Commander, Army of the United Colonies in New York. Dispatch number 1157 to the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President. Dear Sir, it is with the utmost despair that I must report to you the confusion and disorder that reign in every department. The Continental soldier is as nothing ever seen in this or any other century. He is a misfit, ignorant of hygiene, destructive, disorderly, and totally disrespectful of rank. Only this last is understandable, as there is an incredible reek of stupidity among the officers. This situation is most desperate at the New Jersey training ground in Brunswick, where every able-bodied whore in the colonies has assembled. There are constant reports of drunkenness, desertion, foul language, naked bathing in the Raritan River, and an epidemic of the French disease. I have declared the town off limits to all military personnel, with the exception of officers. I beseech the Congress to dispatch the War Committee to this place in hopes of restoring some of the order and discipline we need to survive. Your obedient, G. Washington.
For God's sake, the man with the press hyena!
Well, Mr. Adams, you're chairman of the War Committee. Are you up to carousing, drinking, deserting?
There must be some mistake. I have a sister who lives in New Brunswick.
You must tell her to keep up the good work. Mr. Adams, you must see that it's hopeless. Let us recall General Washington and disband the Continental Army before we are overwhelmed.
Oh, the English would like that.
Why not ask them yourself? You have to be here in a minute.
And when they hang you, Mr. Adams, I do hope you put in a good word for the rest of them.
Here, here. Face facts, Mr. Adams. A handful of drunk and disorderly troops. Against the entire British Army. The finest musket men in the world. How can we win? How can we hope to survive?
Mr. Chase, if Maryland thought that we could beat the Redcoats, would you and Maryland vote yay for independence?
I suppose.
No supposing, Chase. Would you or wouldn't you?
All right, Adams. Yes.
Good. Then why don't you come with me to New Brunswick and see for yourself?
John, are you mad?
Honorable Washington said it's a shambles up there.
Of course you win with Johnny.
What do you say, Chase?
Oh, go ahead, damn it. Sounds lively as hell up there.
Well, and why not? And perhaps this time it'll be Mr. Adams who comes to his senses, eh?
Very well. Mr. President, we will heed General Washington's request. A party consisting of myself, Mr. Chase, and Dr. Franklin will leave immediately for New Brunswick.
Is that satisfactory with you, Dr. Franklin?
Franklin! Wake up! We're going to New Brunswick!
I told you, say. What for?
The whoring and the drinking.
Let's go, Chase.
Let's go.
Mr. McNair. Mr. McNair, all this talk of independence has left a certain foulness in the air. My friends and I would appreciate it if you could open some windows. What about the flies? The windows, Mr. McNair? Open a window, close a window. Good Lord.
I see Congress sitting here in sweet serenity. I could cheer, the reason's clear. For the first time in a year, Adams isn't here. And look, the sun is in the sky, a breeze is rolling by, and there's not a single fly. I sing Hosanna, 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 Hosanna. Cool, hum ye cool, conservative men. Our like may never ever be seen again. We have land, cash in hand, self-command, future planned. Fortune thrives, society survives, in neatly ordered lives, with well-endowed wives. Come sing Hosanna, Hosanna, in our breeding and our manner. We are cool. Come ye cool, cool, consider it set. We'll dance together to the same minuet. To the right, ever to the right, never to the left, forever to the right. Let our creed be never to exceed regulated speed, no matter what the need. Come sing Hosanna, Hosanna, emblazoned on our banner is keep cool. To the right, ever to the right, never to the left, forever to the right. Hands attached, tightly latch, everybody match.
I have a new dispatch from the Commander, Army of the United Colonies in New York. Dispatch number 1158. To the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President. Dear Sir, I awoke this morning to find that General Howe has landed 5,000 British regulars and Hessian mercenaries on Staten Island, and that the fleet, under the command of his brother, Admiral Lord Howe, patrols not only the Hudson and East Rivers, but New York Harbor, which now looks like all of London afloat. I can no longer, in good conscience, withhold from the Congress my certainty that the British military object at this time is Philadelphia. Happy should I be if I could see the means of preventing them, but at present I confess I do not. Oh, how I wish I had never seen the Continental Army. I would have done better to retire to the back country and live in a wigwam. Your obedient, G. Washington.
What we do rationally. We never ever go up half, clock not we. Why begin? Do we know that we can win? And if we cannot win, why bother to begin? We say this game's not about choosing. Why should we risk losing? We cool, cool men. Mr. Hancock, you're a man of property, one of us. Why don't you join us in our minuet? Why do you persist in dancing with John Adams? Good Lord, sir, you don't even like him.
That is true. He annoys me quite a lot, but still I'd rather trot to Mr. Adams' new cravat.
But why? For personal glory? A place in history? Be careful, son. History will brand him and his followers as traitors.
Traitors to what, Mr. Dickinson? The British crown? Or the British half-crown? Fortunately, there's not enough men of property in America to dictate policy.
Perhaps not, but don't forget that most men with nothing would rather protect the possibility of becoming rich than face the reality of being poor. That is why they won't follow us. To the right, ever to the right, never to the left, forever to the right. Where there's gold, a market that will hold, tradition that is old, reluctant to be bold. Come sing Hosanna, Hosanna, in a sane and lucid manner. We are cool, we're the cool, cool, conservative.
describing what we saw in New Brunswick. A ragtag bunch of provincial militiamen who couldn't train together, drill together, march together. But when a flock of wild ducks flew over and they saw their first dinner in 3 full days, good Lord, could they shoot together? It was a slaughter.
Yes, they're reading the Declaration.
What? How far have they gotten?
To render the military independent of and superior to the civil power.
To render the military independent of and superior to the civil power.
Well, there's nothing to worry about. It's a masterpiece. I should be congratulated.
You?
Yes, for making him write it.
Oh, yes, of course.
It's a masterpiece, I say. They will cheer every word, every letter. I wish I felt that way.
I believe I can put it better. Now then, attend as friend to friend our Declaration Committee. For us I seek immortality in Philadelphia City. A farmer, a lawyer, and a sage, a bit gouty in the leg. You know, it's quite bizarre to think that here we are, playing midwives to an egg.
Egg? What egg?
America, the birth of a new nation.
If only we knew what type of bird it would be.
Tom's got a point. What sort of bird shall we choose as the symbol of our new America?
The eagle.
The dove.
The turkey.
The eagle.
The dove.
The eagle.
The eagle.
The turkey.
The eagle is a truly majestic bird.
The eagle is a thief, a scavenger, a coward, and the symbol of more than 10 centuries of European mischief.
And the turkey?
A truly noble bird, a native of America, a source of sustenance to our first settlers, and an incredibly brave fellow who would not flinch from attacking an entire regiment of Englishmen single-handed. Therefore, the symbol of our new America is going to be
The eagle.
the eagle.
We are waiting for the chirp, chirp, chirp of an eaglet being born. Waiting for the chirp, chirp, chirp on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator.
God knows the temperature's hot enough to hatch a stove, let alone an egg.
We are waiting for the scratch, scratch, scratch of that tiny little fellow. Waiting for the egg to hatch on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator. God knows that the temperature's hot enough to hatch a stone, but will it hatch an egg? The Declaration will be a triumph, I tell you, a triumph. If there's ever been anything I am sure of, I am sure of that. And if it isn't, well, we still have 4 days to think of something else. But Eagle's going to crack the shell of the egg that England laid. Yes, sir, we can tell, tell, tell on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator.
And just as Tom here is written, though the shell may belong to Great Britain, the eagle inside belongs to us.
And just as Tom here has written, we say to hell with Great Britain, the eagle inside belongs
Declaration Committee. Are there any who wish to offer amendments, deletions, or alterations?
Mr. President!
Gentlemen, please, please. There. Better open up the way. Colonel McKee, I saw your hand first.
Tom, that's a body paper you've written. But somewhere in it you mentioned Scottish and foreign mercenaries sent to destroy us. Scottish, Tom.
It's in reference to a Highland regiment that stood against us in Boston.
They were more likely Germans wearing kilts to disguise their beard and helmets. I ask that you remove the word and avoid giving offense to a good people.
Mr. Jefferson.
That's fine.
Mr. President!
Reverend Witherspoon.
Mr. Jefferson, nowhere in your declaration do you mention the Supreme Being. Now, how could we hope, this must be an oversight, for how could we hope to achieve victory without his help? Therefore, I must humbly suggest the following addition to your final sentence. With a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence.
Mr. President!
Press 3.
Mr. Jefferson, among your charges against the king, you have accused him of depriving us of the benefits of trial by jury. This is untrue, sir, for in Delaware, we have always had trial by jury.
In Massachusetts, we have not.
Well then, might I suggest adding the words, in many cases?
Very well. In many cases? Oh, brilliant! I suppose every time you hear those three little words, your puny chest will swell with pride over your great historical contribution.
It's more memorable than that unprincipled whitewash of that race of barbarians.
Mr. Reed, Colonel McKeon, that's enough. Mr. Hopkins.
No objection, Johnny. I'm just trying to get a drink.
Mayor, get him a roll. Mr. Bartlett.
Mr. Jefferson, I beg you to remember that we still have friends in the I see no purpose in antagonizing them with such phrases as unfeeling brother, enemies and war are cruel.
Have a drink of water, Bartlett, then finish your silliness.
I beg you to remember that we still have friends in England. I see no purpose in antagonizing them with such phrases as unfeeling brother and enemies in war are cruel to the British king, not the British people.
Bartlett, please be sensible. That passage happens to be one of the most stirring and poetic passages in the entire document.
We're a Congress, Mr. Adams, not a literary society. I ask that the entire paragraph be stricken.
Jefferson.
Strike it. Jefferson, do you ever intend to stand up for this work? I hope the work would speak for itself, Mr. Adams.
Mr. Hancock.
What is it, Mr. McNair?
I can't say I'm very fond of the name United States.
I don't care what you're fond of, Mr. McNair. You're not a member of this Congress. Mr. Sherman.
Brother Jefferson, I have noted at least two distinct and direct references to the British Parliament in your declaration. Now, do you think it wise, sir, that we alienate that august body in light of our contention that they have had no direct authority over us anyway?
This is a revolution, damn it! We're going to have to offend somebody!
You're going to have an attack of apoplexy.
Have you heard what they're doing to Franklin?
Yes,
Those are our friends. Can you imagine what our enemies are going to do?
The word Parliament will be removed wherever it occurs.
They're not going to be happy until they remove one of the F's from Jefferson's name.
Courage, John. It won't last much longer. Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. Jefferson, I have very little interest in your paper, as there's no doubt in my mind that we've all heard the last of it. But I am curious about one thing. Why do you refer to King George as a tyrant?
Because he is a tyrant.
I remind you, sir, that this tyrant is still your king.
When a king becomes a tyrant, he thereby breaks the contract binding his subjects to him
How so?
by taking away their rights.
Rights the king from him in the first place.
All but one, Mr. Dickinson. The right to be free comes from nature.
Mr. Wilson, do we in Pennsylvania consider King George a tyrant?
Well, I don't know. No. He's not a tyrant in Pennsylvania.
There you go, Mr. Jefferson. Your declaration does not speak for us all. I demand the word tyrant here.
Excuse me, Mr. Thompson, I do not consent. The king is a tyrant, whether we say so or not. We might as well say so.
But I already scratched it out.
Well, then scratch it back in.
Put him back, Mr. Thompson. The king will remain a tyrant. Dr. Hall.
Mr. Jefferson, nowhere do you mention deep sea fishing.
Oh, my God!
Good
400 words. Now won't you whip it and beat it until you break its spirit? I tell you, that document is a masterful expression of the American mind.
Very well, John. There are no more changes that I can assume. This report to the next
Just
committee
one
has been-
moment, Mr. President.
Look out.
I wonder if we could prevail upon Mr. Thompson to read again a small portion of Mr. Jefferson's declaration. The part beginning with, "He has waged cruel war."
Mr.
Yes.
Thompson.
He has collected, he has combined, he has abdicated, he has plundered, he has constrained, he has excited, he has incited, he has waged cruel war. Here it is. He has waged cruel war against human nature itself in the person of a distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere. Determined to keep open a market where men should be bought and sold, he has
That'll
prosecuted.
suffice, Mr. Thompson, I thank you. Mr. Jefferson, I can't quite make out what it is you're talking about.
Slaves, Mr. Rutledge.
Ah, yes, you're referring to us as slaves of the king.
No, sir, I am talking about our slaves. Black slaves.
Ah, black slaves. I see. Why do you say so, sir? Were you trying to hide your meaning?
No, sir.
Just another literary license, then, I suppose.
If you like.
I don't like it at all, Mr. Jefferson. To us in South Carolina, black slavery is our peculiar institution and a cherished way of life.
Nevertheless, we must abolish it. Nothing is more certainly written in the Book of Fate than that these people shall be free.
I'm not interested in the Book of Fate right now, sir. I'm more interested in what's written in that paper over there.
That paper over there deals with freedom for Americans.
Oh, really? Mr. Adams is now calling our black slaves Americans. Are they now?
They are. They are people and they are here. If there are any other requirements, I am not aware of them.
They are here, yes, sir. But they are not people. They are property!
No, sir! They are people being treated as property. I tell you, the rights of human nature are deeply wounded by this infamous practice.
Oh, well, then see to your own wounds, Mr. Jefferson. For you are a practitioner, are you not?
I have already resolved to release my slaves.
Well, then I'm sorry for you, sir. For you've also resolved the ruination of your own personal economy.
Economy. It is always economy with you, Rutledge. There is more to this than economy. It is an offense against man and God.
That's a stinking business, Mr. Rutledge. A stinking business.
Is it really, Mr. Hopkins? Then what is that I smell floating down from the north? Could it possibly be the aroma of hypocrisy? For who holds the other end of that filthy purse string, Mr. Adams? Gentlemen, our northern brethren are feeling a bit tender toward our slaves. Oh, they don't keep slaves. Oh, no. Oh, no, but they are willing to be considerable carriers of slaves. To others, they are willing for the shilling. Hadn't you heard, Mr. Adams? Clink, clink. Molasses to rum to slaves. Oh, what a beautiful waltz. You dance with us, we dance with you in molasses and rum and slaves. Who sails the ships out of Boston, laden with Bibles and rum? Who drinks a toast to the Ivory Coast? Hail Africa, the slavers have come. New England with Bibles and rum. Then it's off with the rum and the Bibles. Take on the slaves, clink, clink. Then hail and farewell to the smell of the African coast.
molasses to rum
Can you give
to
us a brand?
slaves. 'Tis it morals, 'tis money that saves. Shall we dance to the sound of the profitable pound in molasses and rum and slaves? Who sails the ships out of Guinea, laden with Bibles and slaves? 'Tis Boston can boast to the West Indies coast. Jamaica, we brung what he craves. Antigua, Barbados, we brung Bibles and slaves. Gentlemen, you mustn't think our northern friends merely see our slaves as figures on a ledger. Oh, no. No, they see them as figures on the block. Notice the faces of the auction, gentlemen. White faces on African walls. Put them in the ships. Cram them in the ships. Stuff them in the ships! Hurry, gentlemen! Let the auction begin! Yaha! Yaha! Makunda! Gentlemen, do you hear? That's the cry of the auctioneer! Yaha! Yaha! Makunda! Slaves, gentlemen! Black gold! Living gold! Gold from Angola! Guinea, Guinea, Guinea! Blackbirds for sale! Shanti! Evo, 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 Evo! Blackbirds for sale! Handle them! Fondle them! And don't think of them! Their prime! Their prime! Yaha! Yaha! Makunda!
Oh, God, Mr. Rutledge. Please.
Molasses to rum to slaves. Who sails the ships back to Boston, laden with gold? See it gleam. Whose fortunes are made in the triangle trade. Hail slavery, the New England dream. Mr. Adams, I give you a toast. Hail Boston, hail Charleston, who stinketh the most? Good day, Mr. Adams.
Don't worry, John. They'll be back.
Right, to vote us down. It's done. Adams, Franklin, I have it. And the Maryland Assembly's approved it. Why, you should have heard them when I told them about one of the greatest military adventures in modern history.
And you'll have to forgive them, Mr. Chase. They just suffered a slight setback. And after all, what is a man profited if he shall gain Maryland and lose the entire South? Matthew chapter 16, verse 26.
Look there.
I know, the flies.
No. All wrong.
Well, gentlemen, what are we all just sitting around for?
We're wasting time, precious time.
Bartlett, Chase. What sea it is, John? The boat's tomorrow morning.
Less than a full day left.
Roger, could you... Face facts, John. It's finished. I'm sorry, John.
We've no other choice, John. Slavery clause has to go.
Franklin, what do you say?
It's a luxury we can't afford.
A luxury? 500,000 souls in chains, and Dr. Franklin calls it a luxury? Perhaps you should have walked out of the South!
You forget yourself, sir. I founded the first anti-slavery society on this continent.
Don't you wave your credentials at me, Franklin. Perhaps it's time you renewed them.
The issue here is independence. Maybe you've lost sight of that fact, but I have not. How dare you jeopardize our cause when we've come so far? These men, no matter how much we may disagree with them, are not ribbon clerks to be ordered about. They're proud, published men, the cream of their colonies. And whether you like it or not, they and the people they represent will be part of this new nation you hope for. And you either start learning to live with them or pack up and go home. But in any case, stop acting like a Boston fishwife.
What has become of me? John Adams, the great John Adams, the wise man of the East. My farm is mortgaged to the hills. My law firm is down the pike. And in a time of life where most men prosper, I am reduced to living in Philadelphia. Philadelphia. Abigail, what am I going to do?
Do, John?
Yes, I need your help.
You don't usually ask for my advice.
I know, but there doesn't seem to be anyone left now.
Very well, John. What is it?
The entire South has walked out of this Congress. General Washington is on the brink of total annihilation. And it seems that this cause I have fought for all these years has come to nothing. And it also seems I am obnoxious and disliked.
Nonsense, John.
That I am unwilling to face reality.
Now you know that is foolishness, John.
That I am pig-headed.
Well, John, there you have it. I'm afraid you are pig-headed.
Oh, Abigail. Has it been any kind of a life for you? I know I have not given you much.
John, I never asked for more. After all, I am the wife of Mr. John Adams. Quite enough for one lifetime.
Is it, Abigail?
Just think of it, John. To be married to the man who is always first in line to be married.
Yes, the agitator. Why? What is it, Abigail? I know that I've always been dissatisfied, but lately I'm weak of discontentment. It fills my throat and it floods my brain, and I fear that there's no longer a dream, but only this discontentment.
John, can you think so little of yourself? And can you think so little of me that you think that I would marry this man you just described? Don't you remember what you used to say to me? I have a friend. Commitment, Abby. Commitment. There are only
what sort of pen?
I don't know. Whatever ladies use for sewing. And why don't you get these cakes to the armory? Hurry, go, man! Jefferson, Franklin, I think we have some work to do.
John, did you hear a word I said?
Oh, forget all of that. There's work to be
John,
done.
I'm not even speaking to you.
Franklin, please. There's work that has to be done now.
Time's running out.
Get up. Get out of your chair.
Tomorrow is near.
It's too late to despair. Jefferson, talk to Rutledge, talk. If it takes all night, talking, talk, and talk, and talk. You're both Southern aristocratic gentlemen. If he's going to listen to anyone, it will be you. Franklin.
Time's running out. I know. Get out of my chair. Do I have to talk to Wilson?
Yes, you do. If it takes all night, talking, talk, and talk, and talk.
Just get away from Dickinson. That's the only way we're going to do it.
Still from Massachusetts, John. Where I stand. Whatever you say.
Mr. Hancock, you're also the president of this Congress, and you are a fair man. I think it better that you remain that way. Mr. Thompson, out of curiosity, do you stand with Mr. Dickinson or do you stand with me?
I stand with the general. Lately, I've had the oddest feeling he's writing to me. I have been in expectation of receiving a reply on the subject of my last 15 dispatches. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Is anybody there? You're humble and obedient.
Are you hungry, John?
No, I think I'd rather remain here.
Good night.
Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see? They want me to quit. They say, John, give up the fight. Still to England I say, good night, forever good night. For I have crossed the Rubicon. Let the bridge be burned behind me. Come what may, come what may. Commitment, the crooners may say. The day there'll be hell to pay in fiery purgatory. Through all the gloom, I can see the rays of ravishing light and glory. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see? I see fireworks. I see the pageant, the pomp and parade. I hear the bells ringing out. I hear the cannons roar. I see Americans, all Americans, free forevermore.
how silent this chamber is. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see?
Yes, Mr. Adams, I do.
Dr. Hall, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry if I startled you, sir. I couldn't sleep and trying to resolve my dilemma. I remember that a representative not only owes the people his industry, but his judgment as well. And he betrays them. He sacrifices it to their. That, sir, was written by Edmund Burke, a member of the British Parliament.
Thank you, sir.
I will hear no more, Mr. Jefferson.
Very well, gentlemen. The Congress will now hear the report and vote on the Declaration of Independence. Thank you for coming, Caesar. And God bless you, sir. Call the roll, Mr. Thompson. And I remind you, gentlemen, that one single nay vote will defeat this motion. Mr. Thompson.
Hampshire.
New Hampshire says yay.
Hampshire says yay. Massachusetts.
Massachusetts says yay.
Massachusetts says yay. Rhode Island.
Rhode Island says yay.
Rhode Island says yay. Connecticut.
Connecticut says yay.
Connecticut says yay. New York.
Mr. Secretary, New York abstains courteously.
New York abstains.
Courteously.
New Jersey.
New Jersey says yay.
New Jersey says yay. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania.
Mr. Secretary, Pennsylvania's not quite ready yet. Will you come back to us a little later, please?
Pennsylvania passes. Delaware.
Delaware by majority vote. Aye, says yay.
Delaware says yay.
Done, sir.
Maryland.
Maryland says yay.
Maryland says yay. Virginia.
Virginia says yay.
Virginia says yay. Carolinas.
Well, Mr. Adams.
Well, Mr. Rutledge,
Mr. Adams. You must believe I will do as I have promised to do.
what is it that you want, Rutledge?
Remove the offending passage from Mr. Jefferson's declaration.
If we did that, we would be guilty ourselves of what it is we are rebelling against.
Nevertheless, remove it. For South Carolina will now and forever bury your dreams of independence.
John, I beg you to consider what you're doing.
Franklin, you mock me. If we give in on this issue, posterity will never forgive us.
That's probably true, but we won't hear a thing. We'll be long gone. Besides, what will posterity think we were? Demigods? We're men, no more, no less, trying to get a nation started against greater odds than a more generous God would have allowed. John, first things first. Independence, America. If we don't secure that, what difference will all the rest make?
Jefferson, say something, please.
What else is there to do, John?
Well, you're the one that wrote it, man.
Yes, John. I wrote all of it.
There, Rutledge. You have your precious slavery for what little good it may do you. Now damn you, you vote!
says yay. Pennsylvania. Second call, Pennsylvania.
Mr. President, Pennsylvania regrets all of the inconvenience that such distinguished men as Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson were put to just now. They might have kept their document intact for all the difference it will make. Mr. President, Pennsylvania...
Just one moment. Mr. Secretary, I ask that this delegation be polled.
Dr. Franklin, don't be absurd.
Polled, Mr. President. It's a proper request. Yes, it is. Poll the delegation, Mr. Thompson.
Dr. Benjamin Franklin.
Yay.
Mr. John Dickinson.
Nay.
Judge James Wilson. Judge Wilson.
Well, there it is, Mr. Wilson. The entire question of American independence rests squarely on your shoulders. An entirely new nation, Mr. Wilson, waiting to be born or to die in birth, all on your say-so. Which will it be, Mr. Wilson? Every map maker in the world is waiting for your decision.
Come now, James. Nothing has changed. We mustn't allow Dr. Franklin to create one of his confusions. The question is clear.
Most questions are clear when someone else has to decide them.
It would be a pity for a man who's handed down so many wise decisions from the bench to be remembered only for the one unwise decision in this Congress.
James, you're keeping everybody waiting. The Secretary has called for your...
Please don't push me, John. I know what you want me to do. But Mr. Adams is correct on one point. I'll be the one who'll be remembered for it.
What do you mean?
I'm different from you, John. I'm different from most of the men in this room. I don't want to be remembered. I don't want the responsibility.
Yes, well, whether you want it or not, there's no way of avoiding it.
Not necessarily. If I go with them, I'll just be one among dozens. But if I go with you, I'll be the man who prevented American independence. Oh, I'm sorry, John. I just didn't bargain for that.
And is that the way new nations are formed? By a non-entity trying to preserve the anonymity so richly deserves?
Revolutions come into this world like illegitimate children, Mr. Dickinson. Half improvised, half compromised. Our side has provided the compromise. Judge Wilson supplying the rest.
James?
I'm sorry, John. My vote is yay.
Pennsylvania says yay. Vote being 12 to 1 with one abstention. Resolution on independence is passed.
It's done. It is finally done.
Is the declaration ready to be signed, Mr. Thompson?
It is.
Then I suggest we do so. And the chair further proposes, for our own mutual security and protection, that no man be allowed to sit in this Congress without attaching his name to it.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I cannot in good conscience sign such a document. I will never stop hoping for our eventual reconciliation with England. But because in my own way I regard America no less than does Mr. Adams, I will join the army and fight in her defense, even though I believe that fight to be hopeless. Goodbye, gentlemen.
Gentlemen of Congress, I say ye John Dickinson.
Very well, gentlemen. Are there any objections to the declaration being approved as it now stands?
I'm sorry, I do have one objection.
Don't you, Mr. Adams?
Yes, Mr. Jefferson, the word happens to be unalienable, not inalienable.
I'm sorry, Mr. Adams, but inalienable is correct.
I happen to be a Harvard graduate.
And I attended William and Mary.
Mr. Jefferson, will you yield to Mr. Adams' request?
I will not. Very well, I will withdraw it.
Good for you, John.
I will speak with the printer later.
Very well, gentlemen. We're about to brave a storm in a skid made of paper. And how will it end? Only God knows.
That's a pretty large signature, Johnny.
That's so Fat George in London can read it without his glasses. All right, gentlemen. Step right up. Don't miss your chance to commit treason. Hancock's right, you know. This paper is our passport to the gallows. But there's no backing out now. We must all hang together, or we shall my name is still the only one on the damn.
From the Commander, Army of the United States. In New York, dispatch number 1209. To the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President. Dear Sir, I can now report with some certainty that the eve of battle in New York is near at hand. For this end, I have ordered the evacuation of Manhattan, directed our defenses to take up stronger positions on the Brooklyn Heights. At the present time, my forces consist entirely of Hazlitt's Delaware militia, Smallwood's Marylanders, a total of 5,000 troops to stand against 25,000 of the enemy. And I begin to notice that many of them are lads of 15, old men, and of whom would truly be called soldiers. One personal note to Mr. Robert Livingston of New York. I must regretfully report that his estates have been totally destroyed, but that I have taken the liberty of transporting Mrs. Livingston to aid the children to Connecticut in safety. 4 older boys are now enlisted in the Continental Army. As I write these words, the enemy is plainly in sight beyond the river. How it will end only Providence can direct. But, dear God, what brave men I shall lose before this ends. Your obedient. Be watchful.
There. Go ring the bell.
Mr. President,
Mr. Livingston?
to hell with New York. I'll sign it anyway.
Stephen, sit down.
No, I want to remember each man's face as he signs.
Very well. Mr. Thompson?
New Hampshire, Dr. Josiah Bartlett. Massachusetts, Mr. John Adams. Rhode Island, Mr. Stephen Hopkins. Connecticut, Mr. Roger Sherman. New York, Mr. Robert Livingston. New Jersey, the Reverend Jonathan Winterspoon.
We hope you've enjoyed your evening here with us at the Lazy Susan. Thank you for coming. Please drive safely and have a pleasant evening.